The four videos we watch uh, on how race plays out in schools were a comprehensive summary, segregated by design, where did all the integrated schools go, and the color of law. I thought in the first video it was just interesting to get a background of where segregated schools started and how they finished, and that it took so long, and that the Brown family finally had to say, you know what, my kids are walking a mile when they really could just be walking to the end of the street, and that was kind of enough. And then they realized, like, oh wow, a lot of other people in the United States are fighting for this. And I thought that was interesting, because if so many people were fighting for the same thing, why did it take so long to desegregate? I think it should have just been an easier process, and I think that the judges in the court that were trying to prolong the desegregation, it just shows that it was a corrupt time. And I also think that they used phrases in the video like damaged development in the first video, and then they also used in the color of law, children are concentrated with the problems of the schools. And I think, like, people knew that children didn't have the same resources in the African American schools, and they were all their development was being stopped and being hindered because their schools were just so poor compared to the white schools. And then where did all the integrated schools go? I was really surprised that now the South has less and New York has the most. That really was a big surprising fact to me. But I also thought that the school swap was an interesting idea, where they sent one student from the poorer school to the richer school to show him but I think it could have been done in a better idea, because I think that kid just was like more ashamed and confused about what he was going through more than inspired. And I don't really relate to him, but I went to a very privileged high school, and I know I did. My high school was the tallest point in Kanesville, Maryland, and there was 3 African American kids in my graduating class, and I just knew I was lucky to be there. And then I knew that when I heard from my friends what they went through in high school, I knew that it was different from my experience. And I kind of saw when the school swap happened, I would have loved to like swap places with my friends, just because my school was so different from theirs. And I think I had better chances. I had a lot of college like insights that they didn't quite have, and I still like see the segregation, but it wasn't quite because of diversity. It was just because I was able to go to a private school and they chose to go to a public school. So I really do think, and that was interesting to me, because they talked a lot about redlining and how they were forcing the African Americans to move out of their homes to build up new properties and to make them more rich, and then they would send the African Americans to a poor district, and then they'd all be stuck in one. And I think they said segregated by design. They talked a lot about how African Americans, they would be pushed out of these areas and then move to a new area, but that school would then go down to low resources because the money in that area wasn't enough. And I just really if they were able to realize it, I really think they could have done a difference. And that's just like my goal is, if people are realizing that there's a difference between teaching in schools, then I think you should be acting on it. You shouldn't just be acknowledging it. You need to be acting on it. I think that is what we can learn out of all these videos, is that instead of just saying, oh, there's a lot of disadvantages and there's a lot of differences in all these classes, I think instead we need to use what we're learning in this class especially to make sure that each student in our future classrooms have the same accessibility that they need. So